Hello and welcome to the Garian Tabletop. I am Garian Reaver and this is a far-waste devlog. Not the flashiest topic today, but it's an important step to making this game, playable. Character sheets and level up mechanics. Remember, this game is a work in progress. Put your feedback in the comments or join us on the Garian Reaver Discord, linked in the description. All the release rules are on the Far Waste Lab, also linked. Wasting no time, here is the character sheet. It's a bit rudimentary, but as I have basically no experience with this kind of design work, I think it's a good start. Today I'll be going through all the bits on it, explaining anything that needs explaining, and checking if there's anything I missed. It's a 2-page sheet for players and 1 page for NPCs. Let's start with the player one and go top to bottom. Obvious stuff first, character name goes here as well as the genus and species. Class and subclass on the right, reminding you pick subclass at level 1, and the level and XP. There's no multi-classing, and if you're using a paper copy, you'll want to write the XP in pencil, but we'll come back to that. Given the popularity and convenience of online TTRPG play, we plan to make a sheet that can be printed for physical games, and another that is interactive for online play. Not quite sure whether they'll be designed for importing into Roll20, Foundry, or whatever. I've not looked into it. But throughout this, I'll call out bits that'll be noticeably different on the online version. Next row is max health, and irradiation. Max health is based on class, stats and honing. Health, or current health as it's sometimes called, is how much you actually have at the moment, and irradiation I talked about in DevLog 15. Something I missed off this sheet is a way to indicate whether you've passed any irradiation percentages. To remind you, irradiation goes up to twice your max health, and you suffer ongoing issues as you pass 20%, 40%, 60%, etc. The online sheet will hopefully track this automatically, indicating the percentage with no maths required by the player. Mind, body and soul scores go on the next row, and there are 2 ways this could be laid out. As mind and body can use one of 2 stats each, this might just be the amount to add to the required stat for the check, starting off as 10 and increasing with core growth. Or it could be segmented out. Com mind, int mind, res body and might body. Maybe we'll split it like that for the online one, where it can be automatically updated, and keep it like this for the physical copy. Fewer boxes to physically update on a level up. What are your thoughts? Running across the middle of the sheet are of course the 7 stats, which contribute to most of the other numbers on this sheet. They are probably the most important thing in the game. On the left is movement and reaction. Movement is what you spend in time-sensitive situations to fight, interact, or physically move. It's usually 20 plus twice your fin. Reaction is the number you add to a d20 roll to determine turn order, fin plus obs. There are ways to increase it depending on class and honing. The next 4 are core to combat: evasion, shields, max protection, and protection. Abbreviated here because there wasn't a lot of space. Evasion is the only one derived from stats, while shields and protection come from equipment. Evasion is 10 plus fin and used to dodge attacks. Shields can also stop attacks from reaching you, but you need good equipment to provide them. Protection is from your armor, and I need to think more about this. At the moment, the system's a bit complex with different protections for different damage types. Not ideal. These are 2 boxes because armor gets damaged over time and protects less. Here you track that the same way you track lost health. These circles are something of which I'm proud. These are for conditions, or status effects. Not sure which sounds better. The top row represent functions of your body, and on the physical copy you'd cover them with a token or something when you're deprived. They are consciousness, sight, hearing, and standing. You cover them when you're unconscious, blind, deaf, or prone. I'll talk about these conditions another time, but the bottom row. These are blank because you'd put different tokens there as you're affected by different conditions, like burning, stunned, restrained, etc. On the online one, all of these will be toggleable. Click to show blinded or not, select burning from a list for the blank ones, and so on. The near death up here will also be a similar thing, but there wasn't space when I was designing this. Sheets on the table, I made this on the Far Waste Lab site, and helpful as it is, it can be a bit limiting on precise arrangement. That'll be fixed when we do a proper version. We're thinking of making physical tokens designed to fit in these circles, icons for each condition that you can easily slip over the slot. Down the left are the skills, along with the stats they can use, so you can just put any skill points in the boxes. Then when you roll, you add the number in that box to the stat the GM says, and that's your total roll increase. On the right is space to note anything with which you're adept, like weapon categories, armor, etc. Thinking about it, there should probably be a professional tick box there. Honing is where you note any cybernetics, mutations, or honing abilities, and class features is stuff from your class. Logical enough. The second page is mostly about what you're carrying. Name again, and I've got the job here. I couldn't fit it on the first page, but it really should go on there instead. Jobs are something I'll write shortly, but they affect starting skills and such. BDs are blood drops or black drops, they go by both, and are the currency of the far wastes. Lucky charms are a way for the GM to reward their players. They're an optional rule, but I think enough will want to use them that they deserve to be on the sheet. At any time during play, and for any reason, the GM can give a player a lucky charm. Perhaps this is a shiny stone that caught their eye, a spent bullet casing with interesting marks on it, or even just a thought that stays with them against all odds. What form it takes, if any, doesn't change what it does, as this is a little instance of good luck. At any time immediately after a die is rolled, a player with a lucky charm can expend the luck within it to force a reroll. This can be done to get another chance at landing an important hit, to retry that perilous soul check, or even to make an enemy reroll their own hit. Any dice roll in the game can be affected by a lucky charm, but the decision to use it lies solely with the player that holds it. Lucky charms can't be stolen or used without permission. If a lucky charm is used on a roll affected by the glow or the grey, a single additional die is rolled, and the result used is at the discretion of the player that expended the lucky charm. More than one lucky charm can be used on a single roll. Once a lucky charm is used to force a reroll, whether the new result helps or not, the instance of luck is gone. Any physical object that acted as the charm remains, but it serves no further function. The player can keep it as a memento or discard it if they wish. It's up to the GM when to give out lucky charms, and they make great rewards for clever plans, effective roleplay, or to bolster someone having a very unlucky session. It's also up to individual GMs if a single player can carry multiple lucky charms, or whether they're limited to a maximum of one at a time. Below here we have space for melee and ranged weapon profiles. Note these aren't the full profiles. Maybe they should be, let me know if you think so, but these are intended to be quick reference information for things that you'll need the most. Specifically, adeptness, number of hands, and range are missing here, as they're unlikely to be needed in every fight, whereas all of these are more likely to be checked regularly. Like with the conditions tokens, we're thinking about quick reference cards for the different weapons, so players can have all the information to hand. You might think that'd make these on-sheet profiles obsolete, but instead they could be used to note changes like weapon mods. There's also an additional column for mag at the end. This is to track the shots currently in the weapon. I think we need a different name for this column, and we'll have to playtest how easy or awkward it is to update this column in the moment. Ideally, the online sheet will have some function to track it automatically. Maybe by shots rolled, maybe with like a reload button, I don't know. Down the right is ammo. There are about 25 ammo types in the initial release, and the possibility for more with expansions. I think it'd be silly to have them all listed when most players aren't going to use them all. If these are left blank, players can write in whichever ammos they use to track. And finally, a big block for inventory. Write everything you're carrying. Looking at the NPC sheet, most of it is very similar. It's designed to have all the essentials on a single sheet, removing the bits they won't need as much. Before we talk about the big blue box in the room, I'll point out two main differences. First, these are designed for the full weapon profiles. Players are unlikely to use more than a couple of weapons at a time. GMs, however, could have to track dozens of NPCs, each with their own weapons. NPCs also have less of a need of a detailed skills list. Instead, skill bonuses go into the same block as their abilities. The only new thing is up here: defeat, befriend, evade. This is the XP system. Leveling up is usually done through XP, but there is an optional rule that replaces XP with a less specific, more GM-controlled method called storytelling. XP is earned through interacting with NPCs or the environment. Players must overcome obstacles to gain XP and level up their characters. NPCs or creatures can typically be overcome in one of three ways, each earning a different amount of XP varying by how difficult they are: defeat, befriend, or evade. Defeating an NPC or creature means besting it in combat and leaving it dead or unconscious. Befriending them means convincing them you're not a threat, and either leaving them on good terms or even taking them with you willingly. Evading them means escaping or sneaking past entirely. To calculate total XP from an encounter, total the XP for the methods used, and then divide them by the number of allied characters involved. Each player character gets that amount of XP. If XP gained after dividing isn't a whole number, it's rounded to the nearest number, or the GM's choice if it's 0.5. That means it's possible to get 0 XP from an encounter if it is too low threat or players had too many allies. You can't benefit when it's too easy. For example, an android with a gun is ahead. It's nervous, likely to attack anyone it sees out of fear rather than malice, but has a malfunctioning sensor. It can't see very well. Despite all that, the gun it's wielding is fully loaded and high power. All this considered, it's worth 4 XP to defeat, 2 XP to befriend, and 1 XP to evade. If the party of 2 players overcome it, they'd get 2 XP each if they killed it, 1 each if they calmed it down, and 0.5 XP if they just slipped past. As the XP is rounded to the nearest number, it'll be up to the GM if they get 1 XP or 0 XP for that one. I want XP values and calculations to be as simple as possible. These aren't complex equations or guarded secrets. GMs are going to want to come up with their own NPCs and encounters, so why not make it easy for them? Roughly speaking, the XP earned should be equal to the level of a character that could handle it alone. With the android example, it's carrying a powerful gun, but a level 4 character could handle it without too much trouble. It's scared but not hostile, so a level 2 character could probably talk it down. And it's a little bit blind. A level 1 character could sneak by. That's basically how this stuff should be worked out, hopefully not too complex. Environmental obstacles are similar, but are unlikely to have official XP values provided. In the same way, they're best judged by what level an overcoming player is expected to be. If it'd likely require a level 3 character to survive and disable that gas leak, it'd be worth 3 XP. Puzzles are harder to gauge as there isn't always a skill check related to them. If there is, a GM could use that as a baseline, but otherwise it's up to them entirely. Ask yourself, how much will the party struggle with this puzzle? More or less than an encounter worth 10 XP, etc. When designing combat encounters, equaling the XP earned with the total level of the party should produce an average difficulty fight. As XP is shared equally between players, I feel this provides a built-in balancing system. Here is a table showing the XP required to reach each level. I won't go into the detail about how these numbers were calculated, but they're on the assumption that the party will have a few fights and some non-combat XP each level. Of all the things I've written for this game, I think this table is one that will see a lot of refining when we reach the playtest stage. Getting a feel for how many fights happen per session, especially given the quick flow in combat we're designing, how often XP is gained from NPCs. This will of course vary between GMs and campaigns, but that's why we'll need as many people as possible playtesting this. The emphasis with the defeat, befriend, evade is so players don't feel killing the enemy is the best way, or perhaps even the only way of gaining XP. You could play a pacifist and level up just as easily, as long as your party's on board. You know what? I'm going off script. I may switch that round so it's defeat, evade, befriend, so it's the DEB system. That could be catchier. Alright, we're going to go with that for now, the DEB system, I think. Sounds better than the bed system. How are you going to bed this enemy? Sorry, moving on. Finally, the optional rule I mentioned, storytelling, is an alternate level up method. Storytelling level ups are basically what they sound like. The GM awards a level up when it fits the story being told. The party overcome a mutant overlord, freeing a nearby settlement from its tyrannical rule. Level up, XP not required. This method lacks the careful curve of progression, but allows the GM a lot more flexibility on when and where to award players with advancements. Ultimately, it's up to the GM and the players to decide, but I hope the flexible nature of the XP system makes it a harder choice. And that's the character sheet and leveling. Let me know your thoughts. The combat test has been pushed back a bit while I get back into the swing of this, but we have lots of cool new things to show off. Join us on the Gary and Reaver Discord and check out the Farways Lab, both linked in the description. And don't forget, Gamverite merch is now available. Please share this round to your friends and gaming groups so we can continue to grow and improve. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe for more Farways devlogs, or for board games, card games, miniatures, and TTRPGs like this. and I will catch you later.